Hi, and welcome to this week's Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. This week is part 4 of our 5-part anxiety series, and today we are talking all about anxiety caused by self-criticism, feeling not good enough, and perfectionism. Okay, David, so let's go back to basics. If we look at perfectionism, what's the difference between perfectionism and simply striving for excellence, wanting to be the best you can be?
It's a great question, Alex. And what's been the theme on all of these things is the words we call it and why we call it. So I always say to my clients, perfectionism is a perception. So who's making that perception? So if you're striving for perfection, who's making that judgment? What's perfect? What's not perfect? What goals you have to reach? Why you don't have to reach it? And so you're falling into what we call in our model CCJ, criticizing, comparing, and being judgmental. The problem with perfectionism is you'll never reach it because it's like one of those high jump bars. And as soon as you get ready to jump the bar, then you will just lift the bar because you'll always find someone else who's got another opinion, another point of view about you or the work that you're doing. Now, reaching your excellence, that's something that you take responsibility for, that you have to be accountable for. Are you reaching your potential? Are you doing what you believe is your journey, your mission, your potential? And I call that your intention. Are you reaching your intention? So you see the two differences here. One is you're taking responsibility, and the other one is you're trying to meet other people's opinions and responsibilities.
I think I can understand there's two forks. There's a junction here, and we can take one fork or we can take the other. So we can go down the road of perfectionism, or what you're saying is we can go down the road of authentic intention. And the road of perfectionism includes self-criticism, being judgmental about yourself and other people, comparing yourself negatively to other people, whereas you're saying authentic intention is more about, not looking externally so much, looking within, taking self-responsibility and being clear about what you're intending. But in reality, David, I kind of think the waters are a little bit muddied on this. How do we push ourselves for authentic intention and authentic achievement, and for it to not trip into comparing, criticizing, and being judgmental? Is there a technique or a way that we don't trip into that default?
That's a really important question, Alex, because that goes to the heart of the Wu Wei Wisdom model. Because you have to either believe that you have inherent worth and value that I call Shen, your spirituality, or you believe that that worth and value has to be validated or given by other people. And this is the fork in the road that we're talking about. Do you believe you have to reach standards, get validation, get approval, please people, to get them to give you this almost like a golden elixir of value and worth, which they can't. So you're always striving, you're always trying to reach it. Or do you accept that you have innate, inherent value and worth? Shen, does every human being have this innate value and worth? And when you believe that, all through every fibre of your body, that it can't be questioned by somebody criticizing you, or perhaps you not reaching an exam standard or something. You not reaching an exam standard does not mean that your innate value and worth is less. It just means you have to study a bit more. And so this is the fork in the road. Are you looking externally, or are you looking and accepting what you already got? And the result of looking externally is a red light feeling, anxiety, stress, tension, pressure, trying to please. And that's the fork is in the road.
And David, I think that is the fundamental teaching here. If we are aiming to reach our very best, our potential, and we're doing that from a basis of positive, authentic motivation and valuing ourselves, we can still work as hard, we can still be as focused, we can still achieve. But it's a completely different journey to if our starting position is we want to reach certain goals or targets or achievements or potentials, because we have a negative motivator. I am not good enough. I'm unlovable. I can't cope. I have to prove myself. Only if I prove myself in these ways will I be okay. That's where the self-criticism lies. That's where the perfectionism lies. And that's where the anxiety lies.
But if you take a breath and think about that, the nonsense of that is you believe that someone else outside of you knows you better, knows what you can achieve, knows what your aims are more than you. And so what you're doing, you're relinquishing your accountability, your self-responsibility, and you're putting it on to other people. I call it in my model, you are giving your power away. You are giving your power away to others, because it is like that cartoon of the donkey trying to get the carrot that's dangling in front of it. You will never reach that, because there will always be somebody quite happy to criticize you, compare you, or be judgmental. And if you're dancing to their tune, you're like a puppet. The result? Anxiety, tension, stress. And it was very interesting what you said at the beginning. Feeling not good enough. Think about that statement. And this has been the theme through all of these teachings on anxiety. Confusing a feeling with a belief. There is no feeling of not good enough. Believing you're not good enough creates a feeling, and there's the confusion. And it's in our normal, everyday wording. We say it, I say it sometimes. Oh, God, I feel, and we've got to stop it, because we fall into that trap. We have to be more conscious of the words we use. Remember the Taoist saying, the words you use are the bricks that build the house that you live in. So be very mindful of those words.
And those words are not necessarily the words you verbalize, it's the self-talk. It's the narrative that goes on in your mind, regardless of what you're verbalizing to the outside world. We all know we can put a front on, we can, play confident, but all the while there's this narrative of self-doubt going on. And David, can I just say what you said about this is about giving your power away and giving your power away and believing that, first of all, you're less than. And then second, believing that somebody else is going to be the judge and jury as to whether you are ever going to achieve more than. That's where it goes wrong. And this starts in childhood. It's like we switch tracks and we give our power away in childhood. Now, of course, in childhood, we are powerless. We are dependent on parents, carers. But something happens when we're a child to cast that self-doubt into our mind. And then we set this relationship of always wanting to prove ourselves to other people.
Well, this goes into the model that we talk about all the time on this channel, the inner child. So the inner child is a thought of something you already call the ego or the subconscious mind, or that little devil that sits on your shoulder and gives you all the negative talk. Now, I prefer to call it the inner child, and we've done many, many videos on this. But as Alex has just explained, when we are children, of course, we want to please our parents. We want to be a good boy or a good girl. We want to receive their praise. We want to be valued. And then we make a very fundamental mistake. I'm not blaming the child. I am not blaming the parent. I am saying this is what happens. We then believe that we have to earn love, respect. We have to earn value. We have to earn worth. It has to be given to us. We have to do something. We have to perform. And this is the basic mistake, the belief that we have to change. You either believe that human beings are born with no value and value is given to them, or you believe that every human being is born with innate value. It's a very challenging fork. When you hold a baby, when a baby comes into the world, if you're in that delivery room, has that baby in your arms and your hands, do they have value? Do they have worth? Or are they worthless? And do the midwife say, quick, can you give this baby some worth? What do you believe? And the test here is when you say those things to yourself that you just explained, Alex, that self-criticism, that self-talk, that giving your power away, would you say that to your physical child? Well, you have to give your power away. You have to get that validation from your friends, from your teacher. You have to be valued by other people, or you have no value. This is a confused way of thinking, and this is the life lesson, because again, this will result in red light feelings of anxiety.
But David, what if someone says to you, okay, I can see you're offering me two choices here. However, if I step away from the motivator that I need to be better, I need to prove myself, I need to achieve the best relationship, the best job, the best house, the best family setup. David, you're asking me to stop working towards all of that, and I'm accepting that pushing myself, criticizing myself, striving for perfection does give me a sense of anxiety if I'm not always on the game, on point. However, the alternative to me, which is kind of drop the main motivator, which is wanting to prove myself, it's like my whole reason for living falls apart. It feels like I'm going to become lazy. I'm just going to squander my life. I'm not going to do anything.
So the two things you said there, Alex, was let's talk about the second thing you said first of all. Why do you believe that your spiritual character is to be lazy? And why do you believe that you would make the decision to squander your life? Why would somebody have that complete belief about themselves? And then how the only way to redeem that and to stop that is to then go on to this carousel of despair where other people are giving you, and by your example, what you should be doing to yourself, because what you just explained to me is the core of these teachings. You are giving your responsibility for your life. You are giving your power to other people to meet these levels that you believe you have to meet. Surely surely that's your innate spiritual responsibility for your life. Why would you give it to someone else? I can't understand why you would want to go down that road and create all the anxiety where you can be totally in control of your life. And presuming that somehow you're lazy, why would you presume that? See, I don't think you would presume that. Shall I tell you what I think it is? Someone's told you that at a very young age. Someone like your parents has told you, if you don't get that done, you're lazy. Oh, you're a really lazy person. Oh, you haven't done your homework. Oh, you haven't cleaned your room. And slowly that's seeped into your belief system. And this is why these teachings are so valuable for you to step back and look at that. Is this you we're talking about?
And David, you're so right, because I think a lot of the people who would say what I've just said about if I drop the negative motivator, I'm going to become mediocre, I'm going to become lazy, I'm going to become unmotivated. They are actually believe, and they are to a great extent, very self-motivated, very self-responsible, very driven, almost, very single-minded. And, they can be self-starters, entrepreneurial, working so hard. But fundamentally, there is this disconnect from something that happened to them in their childhood, which they don't now acknowledge because it was perhaps decades ago, but that switched the tracks, the motivator tracks for them. And that they are, yes, they may be very single-minded. Yes, they may be very self-responsible and entrepreneurial in their life right now. But what's driving them is a core belief that they're not good enough, that they let their father down, that they let their mother down, that, they're not a great person, they're not lovable, they're not going to cope, so they have to work hard. There's this decades of disconnect from the original motivator somehow.
And those people that you're giving an example of, those are some of my clients who are extremely motivated, but following this way of trying to please people, trying to get the validation. And those are the ones that also self-sabotage. Because here's something, have you ever considered? If you believe that you need this external drive or motivation, you can never come to the end, because there will always be something or someone that's just out of your reach. And so they swing to the other side of the pendulum and they say, might as well give up. There it is. It's happened again. It's always me. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I can't cope. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy. And so this emotional pendulum that we've talked about is very important, because at the beginning, it's got this tremendous drive, as you called it. I'm working with several entrepreneurs, set up companies, work really hard night and day, get the companies going. But then they look at another company and their sales are slightly better, or they've just lost a customer, and then they throw up their hands and they say, there you are, it never works for me. Because they're always looking externally. It is like a drug. You need the next fix to keep you going. And the way that I would want you to consider is that you are accountable. You don't look outside of yourself. You look inside of yourself. You connect to that innate value and worth, and you reach your potential. Whatever that potential is, you don't have to compare yourself to somebody else. Their journey is different to your journey. Why don't you celebrate your journey?
And David, this is such a precious exercise in self-responsibility and self-love, because for most of us, we had an experience or series of experiences in childhood which did cast doubt on ourselves. And so we have perhaps started on that motivating operating system of looking externally, comparing, criticizing, judging. So we then grow up and we enter into the adult world. And of course, then we are now in a society where society and capitalism and consumerism doesn't encourage us to look within, doesn't encourage us to deeply reflect on what's authentic and true and of value and of integrity to us. The external world and social media and the news and all the shops we walk past and all the magazines we read are playing into the core beliefs that we may have adopted in childhood, that we're not good enough, that we're not lovable, that we're not going to cope, which are then creating the anxiety, and all the external world and society is kind of amping up this self-doubt. It's like this really is the challenge for today for us is to say, hold on a minute, I don't want to carry on down this road. I'm being encouraged to carry on down this road of striving, of achieving for the sake of status. I want to step off the hamster's wheel, if you like, and take time to self-reflect on what it is I truly want, what it is that's truly valuable about me, what makes me truly unique, regardless of what other people are doing.
That's right, Alex. You know, we live in a capitalist society and marketing people aren't silly. They know this exists. And as you say, they play into this. Oh, if you bought this car, if you had this house, if you lost some weight, if you bought this dress, if you did this. So these societal pressures are only pressures if you accept. If you accept and buy into that way of thinking, and this is why we do these life lessons. Alex has just explained, it is about changing your vibration, and only you can do that. Because if you're going down this road, as Alex has just explained quite well, you're bombarded by advertisement, by social media, by all of these things as telling us what we need next to make us better, to succeed, that people will like us. We have to change that inner vibration. I would say, from my view, we have to change and look inwards, not outwards. We have to look at our Shen, at our spirituality, what we stand for, what are our principles. This is our life. We are blessed to be in this life, and we should live this life to the best of our potential, regardless of what anybody else says. Yes, I know what you're saying, but we live in a society, David. Of course we do, but we don't have to be guided by the society. We can find an individual, authentic path to flow with the society, but not be anchored into some values that are constantly changing, rather than be grounded in our own value and our worth and our absolute value as a spiritual being.
And David, I think, there's quite a fundamental shift that happens here, because when you start doing this self-evaluation, kind of stepping back, taking a bird's eye view of what am I aiming for here? What am I striving for here? What am I working myself crazy for here? Not only do we realize that it's unhealthy to have as a motivator the self-doubt and the wanting to prove myself for the sake of other people liking me, believing in me, loving me. And then some people might say, as I said, oh, well, if I drop that, then I haven't got a motivator to achieve, and then I'm not going to achieve. But actually, when you start doing this self-reflection work, the bigger surprise is that, hold on a minute, what I was striving to achieve in the package and the image I had, it's meaningless. I'm trying to navigate to a destination, and actually that I don't want to go to that destination anymore. Now, of course, it's not like all of a sudden you decide, well, I want to live on top of a mountain in a cave. You still can wish for achievement and success, but the complexion of it, the balance of it. So I think people become more balanced in what they want, like they see the benefit of a greater work-life balance, or a greater balance of friends, or somehow when we self-reflect in this way, we tap into our inner wisdom, that Shen spiritual part of ourselves that knows the correct balance, that knows our greatest potential, that wants to guide us towards our greatest potential. But it's a different journey and a different destination than the journey and the destination that our inner child and our ego is trying to push us hard towards.
And that's why we use what we call the Shen test. And the Shen test is when you're going through these changes and listening to these teachings and see whether they apply to you, ask yourself this simple question. What would I say to my physical child? So just imagine you had a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old child that come up to you and said, Mom, Dad, how do you think I should live my life? The social media at our school is really powerful. People are always saying these things. I really want to do this. I really want to do that. I really want to be in the in crowd. I want to be top of the class. If I'm not number one, I'm not valuable. What would your guidance be, Dad, Mom? What would you say to your child? And I tell you, it would be different to what you're doing to yourself. And that is the change in the vibration that you have to do for you. And that's why I love the idea of the inner child. Within you, you have a beautiful, gorgeous inner child that needs love, compassion, guidance, needs solid, consistent, step-by-step approach to know that maybe what they learned, what you learned in your childhood is not quite correct. And it just needs a little tweak to come back into your flow, what we call Wu Wei, being in your flow, being in that effortless effort where you don't always look over your shoulder, you don't compare yourself. I don't think criticism ever works. I don't think there's good criticism. Have you ever received good criticism? Somebody really criticizing you and you go, oh, that felt wonderful. It never works. Solid, loving feedback is much better. And if you can change this, this is what these life lessons that we do here is all about. I know it's quite jarring because we've been brought up in this way of thinking, but if you can just take a breath, just drop your shoulders and refocus and think about what you would say to that child of yours in a loving, caring and compassionate way.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. And really just to loop back to where we started, when we do this inner child work, once we do the self-reflection, once we think hard about, is my motivator my inner wisdom, my authentic self, my authentic truth, or is it external stuff trying to prove myself? The thoughts and the beliefs change, but as a consequence, the emotions change. We no longer get the red light emotions of anxiety and stress. Yes, we still may meet challenges. Yes, we've got to learn new things that we've not dealt with before. But the emotions we experience when we're on that path, the more authentic path, is one of ease, is one of calm, is one of exhilaration, is one of positive challenge, not stress, anxiety, hopelessness, fear. That's the fundamental shift.
Well, it is, because that goes to the heart of the teaching, because when you start to believe that you are the creator of your emotions, then you cannot be the victim of something that you create. Anxiety cannot be running your life because you are creating it. And this is what we're trying to teach you, to take a breath, to step back and to discover not why I feel not good enough. Why do I believe I'm not good enough? You see, that's a much more powerful question. And I will almost guarantee you that that will nearly always go back to your childhood. What somebody said to you or what you inferred by the way they treated you. And we call it the 3 lies, because that's what it is. The idea that you're not good enough, can't cope, unlovable, is a lie. It cannot be true. Somebody may have told it to you, but that doesn't mean it's true. And that's why you have to connect to that self-worth and that value of Shen, because that's who you are. You are a spiritual being.
Thank you, David. And I will put links in the show notes to related teachings that will help you on this topic. We've done one on the 3 lies, and we've also done one on CCJ, comparing, criticizing, and judging ourselves and other people, and how that contributes to all this emotional turmoil. In the show notes, I will also put links to the previous videos in this anxiety series, which I'm sure will be really, really helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed this teaching. If you have tackled issues to do with self-criticism, self-doubt, or perfectionism, please tell us about it. Let us know how you got on and what you learned. Comment below. We'd love to hear from you. David works every week with clients all over the world via Zoom video call on exactly these sort of issues. If you'd like to learn more about David's one-to-one consultations, I will also put a link to that in the show notes as well. Don't forget to tune in next week for our final part in our 5-part anxiety series, which will be a beautiful guided meditation by David on the topic of anxiety and managing your anxiety and letting it go. So do tune in next Saturday for that. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new long-form teachings every Saturday, as well as 2 midweek short snippets of wisdom. We look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye-bye.